And that's why I dyed my hair pink the day I quit. I was known in the beverage world as like the CEO with pink hair. A grumpy old veteran in the beverage world, when he saw my hair that was pink the first time, he goes, "How do you expect to be a woman and a CEO and have pink hair and be relevant?" And I was like, oh.
Watch me.
Watch me.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Andrew Nemani, your host of Permission to Shine. We've got a very powerful entrepreneur today who's going to break it down and get real with us. I love people who've become mad successful, but they're just so cool. It's really refreshing, and I think you're going to find the same. Our guest is Daina Trout. She's co-founder of Health-Ade. What is Health-Ade? It's the kombucha that you see all over the world. It's in 65,000 stores, including your local Whole Foods. They've done nearly $200 million in annual sales. I'm going to give you guys some background on the story, but first I have to give a huge shout out to our sponsor today, Naughty Wood Barbecue Company. We're talking about smoking meats. And if you need pellets to do that, which often you do, you've got to use Naughty Wood. It's totally family owned and operated out of Woodland, California. They oversee every step of the process. They use 100% pure almond. That's what I love. There's no additives ever, which is huge. And there's a reason that when I was living in the barbecue capital of the world, aka Kansas City, Missouri, everybody uses Naughty Wood. So get yours, homedepot.com, with free shipping. That's Naughty Wood, Knotty Barbecue Company. I also want to give a huge shout out to Andrew's Almanac. I'm obsessed fully with three things: finding interesting people, cool places around the world, and interviews that leave an impression. Things like Jamie Foxx on Tim Ferriss in 2015. I still think about it all the time. And because of those three things and how obsessed I am, I'm compiling them and I'm putting them in a newsletter and I'm sharing it with you guys. People have asked me for my recommendations for a long time, so I'm going to systemize it. You can find it Andrew's Almanac. I've got a link in the bio. Click it there, sign up so you never miss an edition of it. Thank you guys. And you can reply right to that email, so let me know what you think. All right, let's get back to Daina Trout. She teamed up with her husband and best friend to start selling Health-Ade Kombucha at the Brentwood Farmers Market in Los Angeles. Originally was supposed to be a product that was going to help her husband and his thinning hair, and converted into kombucha, a powerful lesson in learning how to pivot. And she has this like ease about her. You know those people who just crush things and they make it look easy? That's Daina Trout. I have so much respect for her, and I think you're going to as well. She's going to be real. She's going to talk about the challenges. She's going to talk about some trauma that she went through in the podcast, which I felt really honored that she opened up about it. So please enjoy it. Reach out. Andrew at permissiontoshine.org is the best place to get in touch with me for feedback and sponsorship opportunities. We've got the video. This was in the studio. It's a sick video. So hopefully you're watching on Spotify or on YouTube. And as always, thank you for listening. Please share with a loved one. That's the best way you can thank me for bringing these shows. I love you guys. Let's get into it with Daina Trout.
That whole blur of the 11 years at Health-Ade was, it's sort of like I have a bit of amnesia around that time because it was so busy and intense. So intense.
Would you do it again?
Not now, but for sure if I were back where I was before I started. Yeah, because it changed my life.
In what way?
In so many ways.
Yeah, what are the top ways that changed your life?
Okay, I would say the obvious way, and the reason one of the reasons I started it, it's financially changed my life. I was seeking financial independence and freedom. I didn't want to live paycheck to paycheck. So that's changed my life. I now have freedom to do what I want.
When did that desire start?
Probably the first time I realized how much things cost. Like, I went from undergrad to grad school, and I was lucky enough to have parents that were very focused on education and prioritized it. And they were like, as long as you're in school, we will pay for your school. So I didn't totally have a sense. I mean, I wasn't like living in nice apartments or anything. So I was still living frugally, but I really didn't understand what it costs to live until it was time to get a real job. And so I would say I was about 25 years old, having just graduated from graduate school in the real world, like, oh, okay. Like trips to Whole Foods and rent, and your job only subsidizes a third of that is a problem. So, and I hated that. I hated not being able to like acquire what I wanted. And most of what I want is not so much material items, it's like experiences, foods. Like I want to buy what I want at Whole Foods. I don't want to be like looking at the price. Like that was a thing for me always, you know? I love having people over for dinner. It's one of my favorite things. I want to cook. I want to feed them till they're fat and can't even walk, you know, and they're, you know, if they want to be drunk on good wine. I don't want to be like, you know, so that was just always a thing for me. And I hated living paycheck to paycheck. In the beginning, my husband, Justin, was a musician and we moved to LA with no job. And so I had to subsidize him in the beginning because music takes a little more time to get, you know, on the grid, if you will. So I was sort of subsidizing a family, at least a family of 2 early on. And
Sugar mama.
Yeah. Yeah, but we were living on the cheap and I didn't like it. I wanted to be like, no, I want to do what I want. So that was a big driver. So it changed me financially, but also the experience of starting a business and then running it as it grew to be pretty big. I mean, obviously there's way bigger businesses than Health-Ade, but I took it through, you know, past 100 million in revenues. At our biggest, we were 250 employees. And we started with, you know, just the 3 of us, me, my husband, and my best friend. The demands the growing company has on a founder, on a CEO, when you bring in investors, we had all kinds of different investors, strategic, private equity, venture capital, all at the same table with a founder. You know, it just required so much of me. I felt like I was learning on some kind of a scale that was, you know, a hair below impossible. You know, I would go to bed like, wow, my brain was challenged today, you know, to the max. And then emotionally, I had to grow to be the CEO that Health-Ade needed. But now, honestly, it's nice to take a break from that. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not looking to get back into that speedy sort of journey just yet.
What are you doing now?
So I'm now attempting all kinds of creative things. I find myself being really called to the creative and performing arts. Yeah, when I left Health-Ade, I had a long list of things that I wanted to do. And because it was no longer required that, I didn't need to make money for work, it was really important to me that I did what I wanted to do that was going to bring me joy, move the needle in my life for me or my family or my husband. Like, that was where I was going to focus my efforts. And it was hard because it's tempting to take a really sexy job, you know, with good pay right after you sold your company. It's like easy. Everybody expects you to do it. It's right there laying in front of you. You could just get back in there. But the truth is, I didn't really want that.
Did you think about it?
Of course.
Like starting another company, or would you have been hired by another company?
It was more being hired. You know, like a private equity company, for example, would have a company that was like 10 million in revenues. Like, do you want to come on and be the CEO? Really good payment structure, equity, jump right in, do it again. And kind of do it again, but easier because you know a lot more. But also you've already got the money in there. And they've passed some level of, you know, important trigger points for a business in terms of survival. So like when the business has already passed a certain amount of revenue, I always feel like 10 is a huge, you know, if you're past 10, you're likely to last. Anyway, very tempting. Yes. And everybody around you is like, do it. When I really dug deep, and that was what I was trying to do, I'm like, what is it that I want? What is going to make me happy? And at that time, it was doing creative stuff.
Like what?
Like
Tell me
painting.
about that. Are you a painter now?
Well,
or you always have been.
I picked up my first paintbrush, with the exception of like high school art class, after Health-Ade. So I mean, I wouldn't call myself a prolific painter or anything like that.
You are really talented.
But I love to paint, and I've always wanted to paint. And my mom's an excellent painter, and I love art, so I gave it a go. I took an impressionist class, and fell in love with it, and then, you know, took a portraits class and a plein air class, and like. So I've been taking painting classes now since I left.
This is funny to me because I remember listening in an interview of yours. You were like, at the beginning of Health-Ade, like we were kind of a joke, you know, like that. Those were your words.
Yeah.
And then you go on to do whatever $100 or $200 million in revenue a year. That's not a joke. That's very serious.
No.
And so I think you have this like kind of ease about you. And I'm really impressed by
It's
it.
funny you say that. Thank you. I do have a comfort level. As soon as you said we were kind of a joke, a little like bug inside me gets excited because I like that underdog story. The sort of like, oh yeah, you think it's a joke, but it's not. Now I'm not pursuing painting, I think, with any real sort of dream of becoming huge. There's other things I am in the arts world, but yeah, I do like that kind of like started from the bottom, now you're here.
Let's go,
type
Drake.
of vibe.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a few places. I didn't move around like an army baby, but more than the average bear. I was born in Saudi Arabia, which is not expected, but my parents were living there for about 6 or 7 years while Saudi Arabia was trying to spur their economy, and it offered all kinds of incentives for American, Canadian, and European companies to set up shop there. So my dad, who worked at in Canada at the time, was a part of that, and they moved the whole family, and there were all kinds of awesome incentives like free living expenses, a nanny per family, which my mom loved because she had 2 girls at the time. I was on the way, so that's why I was born there. So I don't remember Saudi, but I'm sure it's a part of my upbringing and perhaps a reason that I have this underdog story. We had to restart from Saudi in Calgary. And then again, that's where I grew up for part of my life. 10 years later, we moved to Washington, D.C., all for my dad's work. And so each time, you have to restart your life, find new friends, find out who you are. Perhaps a part of that is from there. But I think more of it is innate. And the reason I think that is I have 2 sons, and they're so different. And one of them is just like that. He's got that sort of rebel in him that started from before he even had words. Mm-hmm. He likes that sort of like, prove it, like I can prove it to you drive, whereas the other son doesn't have that as much. So I'm not totally sure where it came from, but it's definitely me.
It's in the blood.
It's in the blood. If people tell me, no, you can't do it, I'm like, that's the worst thing to say to me. Yeah, I don't like rules.
Did anybody ever tell you when you're growing up, because I hear this all the time, is don't get into business with your friends?
After.
Because I'm pissed off because I've been hearing this my whole life, and now I've got the best friends in the world who I find to be very brilliant, and I trust them immensely. I would do anything for them. I take a bullet for most of my friends. Yeah. So I'm like, why the hell wouldn't I get into business with my friends?
I'm getting into a second business with a friend. So yeah, I'm with you.
And not only did you get into business with a friend, you got into business with your husband.
Yeah. And I used to say on podcasts, I don't recommend it. Mm. And now I'm like, oh, best thing ever, because I'm through the journey now. In the middle of the journey, it's really hard to manage, in particular, the husband-wife relationship. I found it quite easy to work with one of my best friends, to be honest. I think it's important you are really honest with each other. You shoot each other straight. For sure, you have to have the same level of commitment on the business, provided that's all true. A lot of things are there that you want. Trust, communication, you like each other, so it's sort of, in my mind, makes a lot of sense. And it was pretty easy with Vanessa. With my husband, on the other hand, it was not. And I don't know really why. I think the nature of a romantic relationship is that, gosh, there's so many things at play. For one, and I'm not one for hierarchies, but still in a company, there's got to be a top dog. And that was me. We didn't agree all the time. And actually, that's, looking back, why I think it worked so well, because we always found this sort of, the friction brought us to the best possible solution. The problem is coming home at night and then switching that dynamic to perhaps one that's more traditional, where like a woman is more feminine, a male is more masculine. And that was reversed, I would say. I felt like, to be CEO, it demanded me to sort of amplify all the masculine parts of me and really quiet the feminine parts. And then I'd have to reverse that at home. That's a lot for me.
What did that do to you?
I don't want to be dramatic about it, but it was really traumatic. I mean, I
Be real.
It was so hard, man. Like, let me give you an example. This is probably one of the worst things that happened. So it's not like this happened every single day. 7 or 8 years in, to give you a sense of perspective, we started and sold the company in 11 years. So 6, 7 years in, we don't know it, but we're 3/4 of the way there, something like that. We're sitting down in one of the most important meetings of our lives with Coca-Cola. I know everybody hates Coca-Cola, but from a beverage perspective, it is the number one beverage in the world. I'm sitting down with the North American president who commands more money than most countries. I am showing him the brewery. I'm introducing him to my employees. And we're having the conversation about the sale of the business. He didn't end up buying it, or they didn't end up buying it. But at that time, it was my shot. What you didn't see was that I was going through a miscarriage at that moment, like in that room with 12 men around the table. I had to do this, this 10-hour crazy meeting. And it was just like, you have to push through. You can't miss this moment. You go home and you're like, okay, that just happened. What do you do with that? Like, who do you even talk to about that? And there's no time because the next day you've got a huge task list of things to get through, or else your business, it always felt like the business might die. There was a point where it didn't feel like that. And I think it's there now. But like those beginning stages of business for startups, like I always told people, like, hug your founder friends, because like they're going through stuff on a day-to-day basis that is so intense, and they just have to sometimes compartmentalize and just turn it off and like go through it. But yeah, in that meeting, I had to like interrupt myself and go to the bathroom every 10 minutes, which I was also trying to hide because that's embarrassing in and of itself. And it just I didn't feel comfortable opening up and sharing what was happening with me. It felt very personal. But being the CEO and the face of the company, I had to put on the show. Like, it was me. It couldn't be something delegated to somebody else. So I just had to do it. And like, of course, Vanessa and Justin knew it was happening, and they were just like, handing me tea and just like, are you okay? Because there was like a lot of blood. Anyway,
Diana,
TMI.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Thank you.
It's okay. Sharing. And I have 2 beautiful boys. So there's no
Was this before them?
In between. But those are the types of examples of things that happen and you just have to push through.
How was your romance?
That's what we were talking about.
That's what I want to know, if I'm being honest. I've been on a lot of drives this week. The whole time I'm like, I just want Dinah to tell me how her romance was with Justin.
Well, that's the thing.
While she's trying to build a fucking massive company.
So during that, because things were so hard from time to time, and there was so much intensity and I was so stressed out, there just wasn't a lot of space for our relationship. We didn't, and if you weren't deliberate about it, it's like that saying, what you starve dies, what you feed grows. Okay, so what were we feeding at that time? Oh my gosh, Health-Ade. Health-Ade got 100%. I was going to say 1,000%, but that's not possible. 100% of my bandwidth. Then we had babies. Okay, so now babies take a priority too. I would say probably Health-Ade even got 70% and the babies 30%. I'm not proud of it, but that's the truth. And so no space. But we certainly recognize along the way through, you have an internal barometer of how your relationship is. And even if you're committed and love each other on some level, you know if it's like you're fighting a lot or you're not really intimate. And I don't mean just in bed. I guess I mean, are you connecting? And I think we both knew it wasn't. So luckily, me and Justin always sort of brought that to the surface and said, hey, like, things aren't where they need to be. And we're both the self-improving types. So once we identified that, it's like, okay, what are we going to do about it?
Address it.
So over the 11 years, it was hard, but then each time it got hard, we built some kind of a boundary. It was pretty simple in the end. In the end, it was what you feed grows. We had to carve out sort of, unnegotiable, if that's a word, date nights. So we had like literally rules. It had to be date night every 2 weeks. We had to go away for at least 2 nights every quarter. And once a year, we would go away for a full 7 days, just the 2 of us. So those were the things that we had to build to get there. Yeah, we had some therapy in there along the way. But by the end of it, we had kind of mastered that way of working, I guess you could say. And then when we sold the company and all of that intensity and stress went away, we still had the normal stress of life. Kids, people get sick, people die in your family. But we were like so used to working through conflict at that point that it was like easy. And so since then, honestly, we've been in this season. I believe everything comes in seasons. We're in this season of just like, yeah, man, we got this. So now I look back and I'm like, what an amazing thing. I don't know anybody that has a stronger relationship than me and Justin. And I think it's because of the 11 years of Health-Ade. So yeah, start a business with your husband. If it's going to work, it's going to make you so freaking strong. But I definitely see how it drives people to divorce. Yeah. If they don't do those things, or if it was never meant to be or something.
Where did you guys meet? I'm fascinated with like meeting. I haven't met my match yet.
Okay, cool.
And so I ask everyone that I admire, it's like, where did you meet them?
It was like the universe put us together. We met in Boston. He was in school for music. He went to Berkeley, yep.
Nice.
And I was in school for nutritional biochemistry at Tufts.
Naturally.
Yeah. I guess even then feeling called to the arts because I would like walk by the Berkeley School of Music and I'm like, oh my God, these people are so cool. And everybody in my school was not cool. We were like total nerds, up till 2 a.m. in the lab. So, and I was wanting more. Anyway, so I did this sneaky thing. I dyed my hair jet black and I dressed all cool. And I would like walk home from the lab and always make sure to walk by the Berkeley Beach, it was called, which is where they would all smoke cigarettes and do drugs. And then I eventually got a job at a restaurant in Boston and with the intention of meeting people. And Justin was a waiter there. It was very fast. And it was a very much similar to the rebellion talk, the rebel talk we were having earlier. On paper, it was not, everybody thought it was crazy. He was 3 years younger than me, which at the time was sort of a lot. I was 25, he was 21. So that's a little bit of a little reversed. Not a big deal, but, he was like a total pothead. He played bass for a band called Tony Reeks of the Grave. It was like the greatest punk band that never was. And I was like doing my PhD and dating a medical student. I don't know. So everybody was like, wait, who are you dating? Like, what is this? But I just loved him.
What was it about him?
I was very attracted to his creativity and his musicality and his philosophy on life, which was very kind of like out there, not conventional. I'm attracted to the unconventional. I like that. I'm like, ooh, what's that about? Like, I don't like to be in the box.
So was it hard working at a company like GlaxoSmithKline?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I have so much to thank for that. There was a great leadership program there that taught that essentially brought me to the place of realizing I wanted to start Health-Ade. And Glaxo brought me good pay for 5 years while I figured it out. While I figured out that I wanted to start Health-Ade. And while Justin got on the grid with music, that was what subsidized all of that. So I have Glaxo to thank. But yes, no, I hated that. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's why I dyed my hair pink the day I quit. Because you couldn't,
Stop.
You couldn't dye your hair.
I need to pull a picture of this.
Yeah, well, for a long period of time, 6-7 years, I had pink hair, and I was known in the beverage world as like the CEO with pink hair. But you know why I dyed it pink? A grumpy old veteran in the beverage world, when he saw my hair that was pink the first time, he goes, "How do you expect to be a woman and a CEO and have pink hair and be relevant?" And I was like, oh.
Watch me.
I
bet you've faced a lot of discrimination as a female CEO.
Yeah. I won't say who because I would get in big, bad trouble. Somebody, very important, in the parking lot after a very long day said to me, we were thinking through a deal with Health-Ade. This was in the time of potential sale. These are always very intense big days, by the way, because there's brewery tours, they're drilling you with questions, you're answering those questions and being upbeat, trying to excite everybody in the room with your company. It's a very sort of intense and positive and energizing. It's like, it feels like you just played some kind of like game at the end of it, in terms of, you're tired after. So going to the parking lot, about to leave, it's dark out. I'm like, I think that went well. We were all high-fiving. But now it's just me and him in the parking lot. And we were talking about doing a SPAC deal at that time, which was basically, for those of you who don't know, it's like you roll up a bunch of private companies into one public company with like a name, and that those companies operate sort of as one, but really still independently, and it's so that they can get into the public market. That's not a great explanation, but it'll do. And he was trying to roll up a SPAC under the Health-Ade name and also purchase maybe like a few other private companies under that Health-Ade name. And he was excited because we were going to have and in the room with everybody around us, he was excited to have a female CEO of that SPAC. And I even got excited about that. Like, hey, wow, who knew I could be the CEO of a public company? Like, that's a new sort of thing. And I was getting excited by that and proud about being a female in that role. In the parking lot, he was like, look, I think you and I both know I should be the CEO. Just because I have more experience. He's like, but you're a woman and that's what people want to see. And it's just a shame you're not black. And I was like, wow. Just wow.
And this is somebody who's high in leadership.
Yes, high in leadership.
hate to
It
see
has
that.
many, many, many roles in companies as the CEO. And that was normal for him to say. Normal.
Why do we let shitty people win?
Well, we didn't say yes to that deal. I made sure of it because of that. So I don't think we always do. And I think we're starting to change. But yeah, it's there. I think you can, without being cheesy, be the change you want to see. You start a business. This is one of the beautiful things about starting a business yourself. It's your canvas, baby. You can paint it however you want. You hire whoever you want, and that will be its own organism. And that was really probably the thing I'm proudest most, honestly, about Health-Ade is the team that we grew. And it just did not exist there, at least not to my knowledge. So I always encountered it when I left that group, mostly, honestly, in investor conversations.
Were there principles that kind of kept you grounded or were most impactful? Like I always think for myself, it's like make decisions that you'll be proud of on your deathbed. I try to live every day with that.
Our tagline at Health-Ade was follow your gut. It's a great tagline because it's a probiotic drink. So there's the nod to your gut. But it was so much more than that. I would say it was a huge guideline for us. And yeah, I mean, one of the big things that I learned as CEO, because there's no guidebook. We all know that. There's so many decisions. When you're at the CEO position or the founder level, the decisions that come your way, especially once you have like employees, they're not the easy ones. It's like if there's a clear answer, yes or no, they would have already decided it and it wouldn't be at your desk. So if it's at your desk, it means that people couldn't agree. There's so many opinions around the room that they couldn't agree. And what really helped take the pressure down, because usually it was a high stakes, high emotions type of, decision. What helped take that down for me was like, okay, look, we got a lot of smart people here and they can't agree. So whatever you choose, it may work out, it may not work out, but it's not like you're not screwing it up because you made the wrong call, So I tried to take the pressure off, and I think the guideline was sort of, okay, so follow your gut. What does your gut say? Do it. You don't have to worry too much if it's right or wrong because all these smart people around you disagree anyway. So I try to tell other founders that too. Like if there's not a clear answer and you've asked smart people and they don't agree, you're good. Just pick one and go with it.
You clearly listened to your gut when you left your company after 5 years.
Yeah.
And
Wait, you mean 11?
No. Glaxo.
Oh,
Backing up a
yeah.
little bit. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
'Cause I'm fascinated with that. I was at Medtronic for 5 years and 4 months, which I think is actually the same that you were.
You said,
there.
yeah.
So I'm manifesting this.
Cool.
Too. Like, come on. I need
Nice.
my
I
big
love
payout.
it. I love it, Andrew.
I feel the same way. I feel so restricted sometimes that I was like, Medtronic money was amazing. I was
Yeah.
super grateful for it to be 27, making what I was. It's like, this is great. But there's bigger goals and needs than that. And I specifically remember like the call with my manager when it was like, okay, I'm transitioning. Like I'm leaving to do this. And do you remember that day?
Oh, totally.
What was it like?
Yeah. My manager's name was Damien.
Hi, Damien.
Yeah. And I dreaded it so much more than it was in reality, And that also goes for the conversation with my parents when I told my dad that I was quitting. I was having a near heart attack.
He's pretty traditional.
Yeah. Yeah. And he had put so much effort, time, and money and resources into my sort of traditional education and a secure job, benefits. What are you doing?
Like, you're just selling kombucha at a farmer's market, Daina.
Walking away from that. He wasn't against starting the business. He was just like, build it until you have enough money to leave what you're at. And the truth was that wasn't possible because there wasn't enough hours in the day. So I made the call, but it was a very difficult call to have for both that manager and my dad. And yeah, when I showed up and did the deed, it wasn't so bad. And you realize, I mean, Vanessa's mom, so Vanessa's the other co-founders, 3 of us, right? Justin, me, and Vanessa. Vanessa's mom, when she told her mom came up with an Excel sort of like pros and cons to starting Health-Ade, almost like trying to approach her daughter with logic, that this was so dumb, you know? Anyway, she had thousands of things or something. No, that's an exaggeration. 100 things on the con side and like 1 thing on the pro. And the thing on the pro was like, you can make your own schedule or something, you know, which really is a testament to like, she didn't understand why Vanessa was doing this, you know, but she did it anyway. And so you do have to follow your gut. And I truly believe, and my life has been a testament to this, Justin's has, Vanessa's has, it's like, you're just never gonna, you got to go for it. And there's always going to be a risk and a price. It's never going to be safe. It's either going to be a financial burden or it's going to be some kind of major risk burden. But something's got to give for you to achieve something great. And so really you just have to bet on yourself. And most of the time in those scenarios, your friends and family will not support you. I mean, they'll still love you and maybe they'll support you in theory, but they're not like, yeah, go for it.
Was it true that you were maxing out credit cards for a while?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Totally. Grad school, Boston. I had mentioned I like to make dinners. I used to invite anybody who would want to come. I'd be like, I'm making paella tonight. Like, all are welcome. And I would go to Whole Foods, which at that time
was Whole Paycheck.
It was like the Air One at the time. And I would just get all the things, like seafood, the best of the best. And I would even get those like best of the best pans and just cook huge meals, buy all the wine, and just feed everyone. And I didn't really, I just kind of did, I just thought build it and they will come with the money. I really wasn't smart with it. So I found myself upside down and way too embarrassed to tell my dad about it. Although he probably would have bailed me out for the sheer, you know, logical reason of just like, you can't be in debt like that. You know?
What was your plan in the back of your head?
I was like, you got to make more money. This is what I meant about the yes and mindset. Like, okay, so here you are. Like, it's not spend less, it's make more.
Do you still think that that's the case?
Yes, 100%. When my husband says, I want something, I'm like, how are we going to do this? You know? Thankfully, now we're in a position where it's easier to do that. But even back then, I took on 2nd, 3rd jobs to do it. I was always trying to get creative with things. And certainly that's what drove me to start Health-Ade, for sure. Even though it was a big risk because it also could not work, right? I just didn't think about that. There was no option to fail. It really did feel life or death. And I think a lot of founders understand that.
I'm ready to go run through a brick wall. Anyone else? Listener, you guys with me? Let's go. We're going to line up in Hollywood. Come on, Daina. Yeah. One of the legendary stories that just really impressed me about you was, first of all, meeting Vanessa. She was your trainer day 1 at your company, correct?
Yeah.
She had just gotten broken up with by her boyfriend the night before.
She's gotten dumped.
So she shows up and she's kind of a mess.
She's totally a mess. She's like, hey, we're supposed to do a ride along. And I was like, hey. And I'm such a, like we had mentioned in the beginning, I like to connect with people emotionally and deeply. So here I am in a car seeing a distressed woman who's really sweet and has just had her heart broken. I'm not going to like focus on seeing doctors. You know, I'm like, oh my God, let's go get some Starbucks and talk, you know? And we became fast best friends.
And you're known for being somebody who can be so supportive for people who've been through something heavy.
Yeah, I think so. That's how I'd want to be known.
Like, where does that come from?
Aren't those the people you like? I don't know. It's like we put so much pressure on ourselves. We're all on our journeys to like accomplish things and be our best. And nobody's perfect, though. And I think there's camaraderie in that imperfection. And I just want people to feel comfortable with their imperfections around me, because then we can really be true to each other. And then that's where like real friendship, I think, develops. So yes, I am the type of person that people tend to tell me their secret, like they'll tell me the shit that's going wrong and like their secrets. And I don't know exactly why that is, but I like it.
Vulnerability bonds you in such a special way, I think.
Yeah. I think people feel insecure around it though.
Of course.
Yeah. But they feel insecure sharing that things aren't perfect, even though we all know nobody is. So like, I don't totally get that. Maybe it's that I'm open with my imperfections. Like I shared with you one of the worst stories at Health-Ade quite quickly. So that might disarm you to say, oh, I can share.
Now I'll share.
I'll share. Right.
And now we're bonded.
There you go.
I was set up on like a first date last week.
Ooh.
And she, like one of the questions she asked, she's like, what's your biggest insecurity? And I was like, oh my gosh, that is a heavy but great question. And she shared hers.
That's so cool she asked that. I like that.
That was so wise of her, I thought.
Right.
And I just think it's such a beautiful way to like deepen your relationship immediately.
There's this concept of a love map and that it's infinite. Like you can never finish a love map between two people. And it doesn't have to be just between a romantic relationship. This can be your love map with your parents, your kids, your best friend. So the concept is that it will forever, ever, 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 there's potential for it to grow. You can always color in another line. And so when you come at a relationship from that perspective, that's kind of cool, right? Somebody you think you know to the max, you can still know infinitely more. But it's not through asking questions like, how was your day? Or where did you grow up? You know what I mean? Not that I didn't like that question.
She hates it.
I mean, for the
it's
first
a bad interview. Let's all just move on. It's over. Guy Raz wins.
I meant for the first
Good
date.
for you, Guy.
For the first date. She could have asked, where are you from? How many siblings do you have? Right? And they're good questions because we do have to fill that in.
You go in this automatic response.
Yeah.
I'm not even thinking anymore.
Yeah, but she went right for the, what are you insecure with? And that's a hard question to answer too, by the way, because you're like, whoa, I got to think about that. Like, I don't know that I have that at the
No,
top
I
of my
knew what
head.
it was, but I was terrified to answer.
What is it, Andrew?
Body image. I grew up like a chubby kid.
Oh, yeah.
It's just body image.
Yeah. That's huge. And I bet you that still sits with you today.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. You're kind of like, are you looking at me? You know? Right?
Yeah.
But actually, that's probably pretty charming and disarming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. What else do you want to be known for?
I don't care about fame. It's really in my family and close friend network that I want to be. Okay, this is a light thing I want to be known for. I want to be known as somebody that smells good. It's a big thing. My friends
What's the go-to fragrance?
Oh, I have so many. There is definitely no go-to. But like my friends all know getting me a candle, like a really nicely scented candle or perfume is always a good idea. So that's a light thing. I want to be known as somebody who is like a deep, a person that connects with you deeply and like loves you for who you are with all the imperfections. I don't want to be someone that someone is intimidated by or idolizes. I don't think that's very productive. I want to be someone that's like ride or die. I don't mind being an inspiration if it inspired you to go be yourself. But that's the only thing of interest to me is that, let me put it this way. If we all have the courage to actually just be ourselves, and obviously it's not just courage, you have to figure out who you are. And sometimes there's a lot of unpacking we have to do to get there. So if I help you in that journey, I think I have lived a fruitful life.
You're doing it.
Cool.
Tell me about these big creative aspirations.
Oh, yeah.
You subtly mentioned that earlier.
Painting is one.
Ignore it.
But I am fully going hard at acting, trying. I mean, and it's cool to be at the bottom. Cool is a funny word. At the bottom of the totem pole. It's cool, not cool.
So humbling.
Yeah. It's the opposite of the started at the bottom, now we're here. It's like started at the top, now you're at the bottom.
Yes.
Nobody cares. Everybody hates you. You get dropped from agents. You don't get callbacks. It's very humbling. But I love the character work. I love the actual acting. And so I am just putting it out to the universe, being like, I'm going to do my best, going to put it out there and like see what comes. And right now I'm still loving it. But I am definitely giving that a real go. And my hope is that, something comes of it. I am writing a movie with my best friend. Remember I mentioned I'm starting a business with my best friend again? So another best friend, Sharzad, She's amazing. She's hilarious.
You guys' Instagram
She's
skits are so fun.
Okay,
like
yeah. So we
SNL
have
skits.
some fun with that. Yeah, we have some fun skits.
Check them out.
Yeah, it's called Love Your Guts with 4 S's. But we decided that being 40 is fabulous. There's not enough content out there for people in their 40s. And there's something special about being in your 40s. You've sort of, you've got style, you've got money, you've got a point of view. Your kids probably aren't super young anymore that they're like taking all your life. So you've got this space suddenly, and it's like, what now? You know, who are you going to be now? Because there's this sort of looming realization that life is not forever. And, you know, menopause is coming. It's sort of like this decade of, oh my God, this is our last hurrah. Not to say your 50s isn't your last hurrah. I'm sure I'll feel that way in my 50s. But we're writing a coming of age movie for people in their 40s. And we're looking for a writer. So we've got a lot of rich content for this that is all truth. It'll just be sort of mismatched and patchworked together. So it's not actually either of our stories. And then songwriting. I'm songwriting with my husband, Justin. We decided that we wanted to work together again. So there you go. And we write beautiful country songs. You can check us out on Spotify, Daina and Justin. But our goal is not for those songs to be on the radio. Sorry, for us singing those songs to be on the radio. They're very sort of like bare bones, acoustic, singer-songwriter-y songs. We want someone else to take them.
You're going to cut them and somebody can take them and run with them.
Yeah.
That's huge. I can't wait for this to come together.
Yeah.
And you're traveling the world.
I'm traveling the world.
You got this sick jacket from Columbia that you're wearing. Here, turn around, show the camera. The camera's over here. Turn around. You guys got to check this out. Yeah, it's so good. Check it out. We're on the YouTube or Spotify. We've got the video on Spotify now too. Daina, you are honestly such a breath of fresh air. Cool. Like, thank you for just showing us that people can be real, people can be successful and raw and honest and open and fun. Seriously, I feel so lucky for this.
Thank you.
And appreciate you making the time.
Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed being here too.
That's it. Thank you so much for tuning in to Permission to Shine, the podcast dedicated to sharing the most humble, inspiring stories that I know you will love. Again, this is Andrew Nemani. I appreciate you tuning in. As always, please reach out, please follow on Instagram, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, Spotify, Apple. Leave us your thoughts. Let us know who you want as a future guest or what's your takeaways from this conversation. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great, great week.